Canoe Sprint isn't unique, I'd imagine, to a lot of other sort of Olympic sports, but ultimately we have very few opportunities of international competition, and there are different rules for who can enter and whatnot between each competition. So, for example, World Cups are held on sort of consecutive weekends. Essentially, you can enter 2 boats per event per nation. Whereas at your World Champs or your Europeans, you're allowed to enter 1. So essentially, World Cups can be stronger than World Championships at times because you get double entries from very good teams. But at the same time, World Cups can also be very unattended, so they can be not as strong, which always kind of led us to a little bit of a question or scratch in our head of how do we assess the performance of an individual against a given field, essentially without knowing the strength of the field, having a really robust metric. And it always kind of drifted into a little bit of semi-objective / subjective, this person was here, this person wasn't, but no real finite way of really understanding who was turning up, how good they were, and what were our guys and girls doing against those different competitors across the international stage. James did a terrific job of coming in and really just trying to understand the sport, understand it through the nuances and the context that I could offer, but then also bring it back to some real hard processes on how we build this system. I suppose where the idea for the ELO system came from, it's something that I've kind of followed before and had a bit play around with myself in other sports. It's been popularized quite a lot on different websites and things you can find out there these days. I know 538.com do it quite extensively for a number of different American sports. And it was something I was quite interested in for Canoe Sprint, just because we have very few competitions. But I had neither heads nor tails of how to do it. So that's where James came in. He was the brains behind the operation, and basically started playing around with the results database that we had, which was quite rich, going back to I think we have stuff from Athens 2004 onwards, pretty much, in terms of international competitions. And he was able to create this ELO ranking system that essentially assessed every time there was a competition, who was in it, what their ranking was, where they finished, and what their subsequent ranking coming out of it was. I suppose it's twofold. Like, the first one is really objectively understanding the field within an event. So it's understanding how strong it is, but also what the depth is in that field, and also understanding how quick or how easy it is to move up the rankings in some events compared to others. Traditionally, it's not to make a generalization or that it's the norm, but like in certain men's events, they can be very strong in Canoe Sprint. So the likelihood of rising up through the rankings is probably a little bit more difficult, just because there is more depth. Whereas, for example, a newer Olympic event like the Women's C1 200, still really strong at the top, some really strong girls, but not necessarily the depth that you might see in an event where instead of having 15 amazing girls, like in a men's event, you might have 30 amazing men. So it's just really understanding the depth and how far people are off and where they need to travel to, which kind of leads to the second point. Is it's really become a nice tool, a nice starting point in terms of objectivity. Is after a season, after a competition, we can go, what did that person do? What was the strength of field that they did it in? And what does that relate to in terms of, in 2 years' time, if we have the games, do we think they're on track? Like I said, the confidence bands give us a relatively good indication of whether or not we think they're going to go on to achieve success at the games. But that being said, it's also like, for those that lie outside the confidence bands, it's not saying it's never going to happen. It's just historically it's never been done. So you would have to do something historically that had never been done before. So it's not this cut and dry, yes, no, this person's going to be successful, this person's not going to be successful within the sport. I think it's the first objective lens that we look at international performance and actually try and assess what did that actually mean, and then kind of make some assessments based on a number of other things that we collect inside the sport, and whether or not we think they've got the potential to bridge the gap